When humanity adopted the galaxy's so-called weakest species, no one could have predicted how quickly these frail creatures would transform into the most fearsome warriors the universe had ever seen. Joseph Shaw, a battle-hardened ex-military officer turned interstellar trader, thought he had seen it all during his years traversing the cosmos. But when he landed on the planet Cataris to negotiate a routine trade deal, he stumbled upon a scene that would change the course of galactic history. In a dank alley, a group of burly Catarian soldiers mercilessly pummeled a small, defenseless creature. Sickened by the cruelty, Joseph intervened, rescuing the battered alien he would come to know as Yaris. As Yaris poured out his story, Joseph learned the shocking truth. Yaris belonged to a subspecies of Catarians viewed as weak and inferior, subjugated for generations as slave labor and living punching bags. Seen as worthless and undeserving of basic dignity, Yaris's kind had endured unspeakable oppression at the hands of the dominant Catarians. Appalled by this grave injustice, Joseph took Yaris under his protection, determined to right the wrongs inflicted upon these downtrodden beings. But Joseph's actions did not go unnoticed. By defying the Catarian hierarchy and refusing to surrender Yaris, he ignited a powder keg of tension. Forced to fight their way off the planet, Joseph and Yaris barely escaped with their lives. As Joseph tended to Yaris's wounds aboard his ship, he uncovered the incredible untapped potential lurking within the unassuming alien's biology: accelerated healing, extreme resilience to pain, and an astonishing capacity to adapt and evolve. With cutting-edge human technology and rigorous training, Joseph realized he could forge Yaris and his brethren into formidable warriors unlike any the galaxy had witnessed. Emboldened by this revelation, Joseph conceived an audacious plan. He would marshal support on Earth to mount a daring liberation of Yaris's people, granting them asylum and the chance to achieve their true potential. In exchange, they would stand with humanity as elite shock troops in a brewing conflict against a relentlessly expanding alien empire that threatened Earth itself. But the path ahead was fraught with peril. The Catarian government, outraged by Joseph's actions, moved to quash his rebellion and reclaim their living property. On Earth, factions skeptical of uplifting an alien species saw only wasted resources and potential danger. As Joseph commenced Yaris's training and worked to sway hearts and minds, they confronted lethal obstacles, shadowy assassins, cutthroat political dealings, and rising hostilities that could erupt into total war between humanity and Cataris. The stakes had never been higher. To prevail, Joseph would need to navigate a minefield of treachery and forge an unbreakable alliance between humans and Catarians. Only together could they hope to triumph in the decisive confrontation that would reshape the very fabric of the universe. 2 worlds, 2 species, 1 destiny. A future where the once abused would become the champions of galaxies. But first, they would have to weather the storms ahead and find the strength to rise as one. The countdown to revolution had begun. As Joseph threw himself into training Yaris and a handful of his fellow Catarians in the ways of human warfare, storm clouds gathered on the horizon. Ambassador Zoltan, the Catarian government's mouthpiece on the Galactic Council, wasted no time lodging a formal complaint against Earth. "These humans have committed a grave crime," Zoltan seethed before the assembled delegates. "They've stolen our lawful property and meddled in our sovereign affairs. We demand the return of our Tarian assets at once, or we will have no choice but to respond with force." Back on Earth, Senator Harkin took to the airwaves, sounding the alarm against Joseph's uplifting initiative. "Have we lost our minds?" he thundered from the Senate floor. "Gambling our future on some alien race we barely understand? It's sheer madness. We need to focus on human interests, not playing galactic savior. I call for the immediate arrest of Joseph Shaw on charges of treason." Besieged from all sides, Joseph knew he had to act fast. He launched a media blitz, taking his case directly to the people of Earth. On talk shows and news programs, he spoke with passionate conviction about the untapped potential of Yaris's species and the crucial role they could play in defending humanity against the relentlessly expanding alien empire. "These beings are not property," Joseph declared, his eyes blazing with righteous fury. "They're sentient creatures with hopes, dreams, and an incredible capacity to become our staunchest allies. In the face of the coming storm, we need every friend we can get." The uplifting of the Qatarians is not just a moral imperative. It's a strategic necessity for our very survival. As Joseph's words echoed across the airwaves, public opinion began to shift. More and more people rallied to his cause, inspired by his vision of a future where humans and Qatarians stood united against the darkness. While the political firestorm raged, Yaris and his fellow trainees made astonishing strides. Under Joseph's expert guidance, they mastered the art of human combat with breathtaking speed. Their natural gifts, enhanced strength, lightning reflexes, and an almost superhuman capacity to heal, transformed them into warriors of unparalleled prowess. Word of their growing legend spread like wildfire through the Qatarian underclass. Dozens, then hundreds of oppressed Qatarians flocked to Joseph's banner, desperate to claim their birthright of freedom and dignity. What had begun as a ragtag band of rebels soon swelled into a formidable army. But the Qatarian government would not let its grip on power slip away so easily. In a desperate bid to crush the uprising, they dispatched their deadliest assassins to eliminate Joseph and Yaris. The killers struck without warning, infiltrating the rebel training camp under cover of darkness. In the chaos of the raid, Joseph and Yaris fought side by side, their movements fluid and precise as they cut through the assassins with ruthless efficiency. The rebel Qatarians, armed with human weapons and tactics, proved more than a match for their oppressors. When the smoke cleared, the assassins lay dead or dying, a powerful testament to the lethal synergy between man and Qatarian. News of the failed assassination ignited a firestorm across Qataris. The downtrodden masses, so long consigned to the shadows, surged forth in open revolt. The government, reeling from the defeat of its elite killers, moved to crush the rebellion with overwhelming military might. As war clouds loomed, Joseph and his allies forged a pact with a shadowy network of rebel Qatarians who had long dreamed of toppling their corrupt masters. Together they hatched a plan for a bold strike against the very heart of the regime, a decapitation blow that would shatter the chains of tyranny once and for all. The stage was set for a cataclysmic confrontation that would shape the destiny of two worlds. Joseph and Yaris, standing at the vanguard of the uplifted Qatarian army, steeled themselves for the trials ahead. They knew the odds were stacked against them, that they faced an implacable foe with resources beyond reckoning. But they were ready to fight to the last breath, to pay any price for victory. For in this struggle, there could be no half measures, no compromise. The future of human and Qatarian alike hung in the balance, poised on the knife edge between freedom and oblivion. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as the vote concluded. Joseph and Yaris exchanged glances of disbelief as the tally was announced. Military aid and logistical support for their cause had been approved. After years of struggle, they finally had powerful allies in their fight against the expansionist empire. Within days, a vast armada of ships from across the galaxy converged on the Tarian system. Joseph watched from the bridge of his command vessel as the fleet materialized out of hyperspace. Sleek human cruisers, bulbous Zorn-T warships, and dozens of other alien designs he'd never seen before. A gruff voice crackled over the comms. "This is Admiral Tarlock of the Galactic Defense Force, requesting permission to dock and coordinate our strategy." Minutes later, Joseph stood face to face with the imposing admiral in the war room. Tarlock towered over him, tentacles writhing beneath a craggy face etched with countless battles. "We don't have much time," Tarlock rumbled, activating a holographic display. "Scout reports indicate the enemy fleet outnumbers us 5-1. Victory will require cunning and sacrifice." Joseph nodded grimly. "I have an idea, but it's risky." For hours, they debated tactics, poring over star charts and running simulations. Finally, a daring three-pronged plan took shape. As the joint fleet made final preparations, Joseph pulled Yaris aside. "This could be our toughest fight yet. Are you ready?" Yaris's eyes gleamed with fierce persistence. "We were born ready. The Catarians will show the galaxy what we're truly capable of." The plan sprang into action as Commander Rylok's small flotilla peeled away from the main fleet, broadcasting false distress signals. As expected, a sizable contingent of enemy ships took the bait, pursuing Rylok's forces toward a nearby nebula. Joseph watched the tactical display, heart pounding, as Rylok's ships darted between roiling clouds of cosmic dust. The enemy vessels plunged in after them, unaware of the antimatter mines seeded throughout the nebula. A series of blinding flashes erupted across the view screen as the mines detonated. When the light faded, Joseph saw with grim satisfaction that nearly a third of the pursuers had been vaporized or crippled. Meanwhile, Yaris led a strike team of elite Catarian warriors on a series of lightning raids against the invaders' supply lines. Their ships struck with surgical precision, materializing out of stealth to blast fuel depots and communication relays before vanishing again. On the bridge of the enemy flagship, alarms blared as reports of chaos flooded in. The alien commander snarled orders, struggling to contain the spreading fires of rebellion across his fleet. Suddenly, the bulkhead exploded inward. Yaris burst through the smoking hole, his enhanced physiology shrugging off the searing heat. In seconds, he incapacitated the bridge crew and secured vital intelligence from the ship's computers. With the enemy reeling from the 1-2 punch, Joseph and Tarlok launched the main assault. The Allied armada surged forward, guns blazing. Explosions bloomed in the void as the two fleets collided in a titanic slugging match. Yaris and his Catarian commandos proved their worth 100 times over, using their incredible stamina and healing abilities to board enemy vessels in waves. Where other boarding parties would have been forced to retreat, the Catarians fought on relentlessly, capturing ship after ship through sheer tenacity. As the tide of battle turned, the remaining enemy forces attempted a fighting retreat, but Rylok's ships had regrouped, sealing off their escape route. Caught between hammer and anvil, the invaders found themselves trapped. Admiral Tarlok's voice rang out across the Allied fleet. "All ships, clear the system's center immediately, preparing solar detonation." A salvo of energy beams lanced out, striking the Tarian sun with pinpoint accuracy. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the star's surface began to roil and bubble ominously. In a blinding flash, the sun erupted, disgorging a torrent of superheated plasma that engulfed the remnants of the enemy armada. When the stellar fire dissipated, only scattered debris remained. On the observation deck, Joseph and Yaris stood in stunned silence, scarcely able to believe their victory. After a moment, they turned to each other, clasping arms in a warrior's embrace. Their elation was short-lived. An aide rushed in, face pale. "Sirs, we're detecting massive energy signatures. The Empire is gathering an even larger fleet, and they're on a direct course for Earth." Joseph's eyes sharp as he shared a determined look with Yaris. The true test was yet to come. The true test was yet to come. Joseph and Yaris barely had time to catch their breath before new alarms blared across the command deck. A junior officer rushed to their side, his face pale. "Sirs, long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures. It's unprecedented." Joseph leaned over the holographic display, his eyes widening as he took in the data. "They're not giving up. This is an all-out assault." Yaris nodded, his expression hardening. "Then neither will we." Admiral Tarlok's gruff voice crackled over the comms. "All ships, battle stations, we're facing the fight of our lives." For the next 72 hours, Joseph and Yaris worked tirelessly, pushing themselves and their forces to the limit. In makeshift training grounds across the fleet, Tarian recruits learned human combat tactics at a breakneck pace. The sound of weapons fire and shouted orders filled the air as instructors drilled their charges relentlessly. Joseph paced the length of a hangar bay, addressing a group of newly minted Catarian warriors. "You've come far in a short time, but the real test lies ahead. Earth is counting on us." As the enemy armada dropped out of warp near Earth's orbit, the Allied fleet sprang into action. Hidden behind the cratered surface of the moon, Commander Rylock's ships unleashed hell. Streams of antimatter torpedoes streaked across the void, detonating in blinding flashes that tore through the enemy's front lines. The main Allied fleet surged forward, guns blazing. Energy beams lanced back and forth across the inky blackness of space. Fighters swarmed like angry insects, weaving intricate death dances amidst capital ships. On the bridge of his command vessel, Joseph watched the tactical display with growing concern. Despite their initial success, the sheer numbers of the enemy were overwhelming. He turned to Yaris, who nodded in silent understanding. "All Qatarian boarding teams, prepare for deployment," Joseph's voice rang out over the fleet-wide channel. "This is our chance to turn the tide." Yaris led the charge, his atmospheric craft streaking towards the massive enemy flagship. As they neared their target, point defense lasers lit up the void around them. The craft shuddered and bucked, but Yaris's expert piloting kept them on course. With a bone-jarring impact, they slammed into the flagship's hull. Cutting torches flared to life, carving an entrance. Yaris hefted his pulse rifle, turning to his team. "For Earth, for freedom, attack!" They poured into the alien vessel, immediately encountering fierce resistance. The corridors echoed with weapons fire and the clash of hand-to-hand combat. Yaris fought like a man possessed, his enhanced physiology allowing him to shrug off wounds that would have felled a normal soldier. Inch by bloody inch, they fought their way towards the bridge. Bodies littered the deck plating, human, Tarian, and alien alike. Yaris's force was whittled down to a mere handful by the time they reached their objective. The bridge doors exploded inward, and Yaris charged through the smoke. He found himself face to face with the enemy commander, a towering, multi-limbed monstrosity. Without hesitation, Yaris hurled himself at his foe. What followed was a brutal, no-holds-barred brawl. Yaris's speed and skill were matched against the alien's raw strength and reach. They traded earth-shattering blows, neither willing to yield. In a high-stakes endeavor, Yaris allowed himself to be grappled, using the close proximity to drive a hidden blade deep into his opponent's torso. The alien's death throes were terrible to behold, but when the dust settled, Yaris stood victorious, bloodied, broken, but unbowed. As Yaris collapsed to the deck, Joseph and his team stormed onto the bridge. Joseph rushed to his friend's side, cradling Yaris's head. "We did it!" Yaris gasped, blood bubbling from his lips. "We won!" Joseph fought back tears as he felt Yaris's life slipping away. With a Herculean effort, he tore himself away from his dying comrade and focused on the task at hand. His fingers flew over the alien controls, overriding safeguards and redirecting the ship's awesome firepower. The flagship's massive plasma lances powered up, their target not the Earth or the Allied fleet, but a nearby black hole. The beams lashed out, striking the event horizon with unimaginable force. Space itself seemed to warp and twist as the gravitic forces intensified. Enemy ships, caught in the rapidly expanding maelstrom, were drawn inexorably towards oblivion. But Joseph's gambit had unforeseen consequences. The ships involved in the boarding action, including his own, were now trapped in the black hole's growing pull. As alarms blared and the hull began to buckle, Joseph keyed the comms one last time. "This is Joseph Shaw to Earth Command. Mission accomplished. The enemy fleet is neutralized. I'm sorry. We won't be coming home." He turned back to Yaris, whose breathing had grown shallow. They clasped hands, sharing a final moment of companionship as the void claimed them. In the aftermath of the cataclysmic battle, Admiral Tarlock stood on the bridge of his flagship, overseeing the grim task of search and recovery. The toll had been immense, countless ships reduced to drifting hulks, millions of lives snuffed out in an instant. On Earth, shell-shocked officials struggled to come to terms with their Pyrrhic victory. Monuments were hastily erected to honor the fallen, with Joseph and Yaris's names given pride of place. Yet, from the ashes of conflict, hope emerged. The surviving Qatarians, tempered by battle and united in purpose, stood ready to take up the mantle of Earth's protectors. Their strength, their resilience, their unwavering loyalty. These would be the pillars upon which a new era of galactic security would be built. Admiral Tarlok gazed out at the star-filled expanse, his voice barely above a whisper. We will remember, we will endure, and we will never again be caught unaware.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.